Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking with Ashlie Pesic, the farmer's daughter at Dali Ranch, about staffing to sell at multiple farmers markets and pivoting during COVID-19. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers, and I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still a hands-on farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I am co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, website builder, YouTube star, everything.
Mask maker, info booth lady, still all the things.
Multitasking is our life.
Mm-hmm. So good at it. All right, everyone. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk. Here in California, we were closed for a while. Some of us are still closed, and most of us are open but modified to one degree or another. Dali Ranch is a Southern California meat and poultry farming operation that operates in several counties and cities, so they continue to deal with a variety of changing conditions.
Ashlie Pesic is the farmer's daughter and manager of Dali Ranch's farmers market and distribution systems. Welcome to Tent Talk, Ashlie. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. We're excited too.
Mm-hmm. I miss seeing Ashlie because I don't see you on site at the markets anymore.
I know,
right. But I did for many years. So
that's right. She does other markets.
Yes.
Yeah,
we see some other great Dali
Yeah, I see you at Hillcrest sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, there we go.
We get shunned for Hillcrest.
Yeah.
But we get Aaliyah, so that's okay.
Yeah.
So Dali Ranch started at farmers markets with just one market in 2008. That's a long time ago.
You're gonna ring your own bell and say it was your market?
It was my market. In fact, I went and hunted Dave down and said, because I wanted protein at my markets like they had at the markets in Paris. And that wasn't a thing here back then. People weren't selling meat at farmers markets. It was weird. Except for really weird frozen bricks of fish that one fish vendor had way back in the day. Now we have good fresh fish. We've got wonderful proteins. It's all awesome. How many markets does Dali operate in each week now, Ashlie?
We've recently downsized, not just due to COVID, but now with COVID, we're about 16 to 18 a week.
And what were you at your peak?
22.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot.
So many markets each week. So 16 to 18. It was part of the downsizing because of COVID? Did some markets close? Or
Well, currently, the ones that we have reopened that we could be at, we have chosen not to reattend at this moment.
Gotcha. But they're all open now, so it's more your decision.
Yeah, all but I want to say 2.
Okay, gotcha. And just gotten too big, too many people, being more scientific about looking at return on investment, all of the above?
All of the above, having a hard time with resources like vehicles and insurance and keeping people at full time and not just part time. That was a lot to do with it. And then, of course, how much product you have. And it was limiting some of the markets where they could have enough variety.
Because it just spread so thin.
It wasn't fair to those markets.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, just trying to make each market really maximized is better than spreading yourself so thin. How long have you been working with Dali Ranch?
Well, I grew up on the farm, so a while. Yeah, but I actually just hit my 10-year mark working at farmers markets.
Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah, so I think you may have been just a little bit too young back in 2008, but yeah, within the first couple of years, we started seeing Ashlie at the markets. And did you start at markets, or did you start in another part of the business on the ranch and then develop into markets?
Child labor?
Yeah, that part. Bridget doesn't know anything about that.
What do you mean? My whole life.
Chores. It would be called chores. Definitely, helped raise animals and helped maintain the farm. And then that's when I turned 18. I was like, bye, I'm out of here. I'm doing my own thing now. And I moved to San Diego. And so I was ready to have nothing to do with farming and ranching and whatnot. And then when I got a call from my family asking like, hey, we could really use some help at a farmer's market. Could you come meet us? It's in San Diego. You wouldn't have to travel very far, but like we could really use your help. and I was really hesitant. I had a normal Target job, which I loved, working at Target. So much easier than growing up on a farm.
So clean. So
Kind of
clean at a Target.
the anti-farmers market.
And when I was really hesitant, I was promised that I wouldn't have anything to do with raising the animals. Like my response was, I'm not mucking another animal pen in my life. And, they were like, no. I had no idea what a farmer's market was. So when they said meet at a farmer's market, I literally had to Google what's a farmer's market. And so I show up at Little Italy and mostly just needed help with the heavy stuff. Dave's pretty old. My mom couldn't leave the farm to help him. So lifting things, setting up, breaking down was really all that I was, once again, for physical labor. It only took maybe 4 to 6 weeks of going back to Little Italy and talking to the customers, because I didn't want to work the markets, right? So I would just help set up, and then I kind of pout around, hating being there. It's a Saturday morning and my only day off, where I'd have to do a double shift and work Target later. But
I think I remember those days. I remember those days and going, oh yeah, I've had teenage girls. I recognize that look.
Yeah,
so sulking.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mom.
Moping, regretting, but after talking and engaging with the type of customers and the type of community that farmers markets brought, I instantly fell in love with the food community. And that's what never looked back. Like, still dread sometimes setting up, breaking down, but it's always that foodie community that makes it worthwhile and what I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, it's a good group.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah.
And you're so good at it. That's why we miss seeing you at our markets. We've been working with other members of your team for a few years now, but you're just so good at customer relationships. And obviously, since you grew up on the farm, you've got such a good background and depth of knowledge about the product, which obviously shoppers respond to.
Right.
And you are just comfortable with any kind of person.
Yes.
Maybe, again, when you start as a teenager, you don't know that maybe you're supposed to react to one person differently than the other. You just take everybody the way they are at face value. And it's so amazing that the customers just all fell in love with you. I remember.
I feel like being in a family business is like being Amish. Like, you have to go out on your own at some point and like discover the world and like decide if you want to stay away or decide if you want to come back.
That's true.
My sister and I both did it. My sister stayed far, far away and never come back. And I came back too. So it's interesting, the family business. Yeah. It's a good place to be.
I mean, do you find special challenges working with family, Ashlie?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Special challenges. That's a nice way.
Well, it's different than working with people at Target to work with your family, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of obligations. And that's a hard one that I never went away, constantly dealing with. It's a lot of extra stuff that you do because you feel obligated. And that could be hard. That can be hard on your mental health sometimes, but that's just part of the game. When you run your own business, I don't run the farm, but I still consider it part of my business.
And beside your family members, how many people are on your market team?
7.
Okay.
So pretty small, but they're all full-time.
Yeah.
That's good. That's kind of a smart way to do it too, because I know shoppers like shop different markets during the week. And so it's nice when you kind of see the same person as opposed to like a different person for each market. It's nice when I see Dali, like the same people at the markets that I go to. So.
Yeah. And where do you find your new employees? I mean, Kat already said this before, but they're so knowledgeable and really great at bringing back those devoted customers. And I remember, is his name Scott, your other dude? I remember him at our conference a couple of years ago talking about how he like texts his customers, and he has all of these different ways of really connecting with them and making sure that he's getting them the product that they need. So where do you find all these awesome employees?
Well, that's a good thing. They're mostly friends. And the shortest amount of time that one of our employees has lasted is, like a year. And currently all employees that we have are on 5 years plus. So they've stuck around.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've never had anyone quite less than a year. And then, right now the youngest has been with us for 5 years. And the longest one has been longer than me, and she's on 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that?
Lisa, she does some of the Palm Springs, LA,
nice.
those outer areas outside of San Diego. Because that was when I decided to come back. I said, I'm not moving back to the ranch, so you're gonna have to figure something out. Like, I love San Diego. I'm staying in San Diego.
Yeah.
That's like really impressive. I mean, to have employee retention in the 5 to 10 year range is amazing. What are some of the things that you think that keep those employees around so long and keep them happy and keep them being good employees?
Pay well. That's a start. There's a lot of rapport and camaraderie we do together. We do a lot of activities. We go out. We do cookouts, vacations, not when vacations, but different little mini trips, that kind of stuff. And we have a pretty active group chat, and we have a safe space where you can it's okay if you want to complain about something, and we don't judge that. And that helps a lot too, because people can express how they feel and not think that they're just going to get fired because they're, upset in that moment. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Well, that's really smart.
I think that's important, just because farmers markets and being on a farm and working in food service and all those things can just be so stress inducing. And it's good to just have an environment where you can kind of be like, this sucks. I need to talk about it with somebody and not fear that you're complaining or your venting is going to reflect or get you in trouble at your job. So that's nice. Yeah. I mean, it's really reflective of your team, just how they all seem really happy and they're all, I don't know. I mean, there are certain farmers and vendors and things that I can tell that they're just treated well as employees. And so, nice.
Are they on straight, a base kind of salary, Ashlie, or do you do incentive programs?
I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they just seem really motivated to sell. So I was wondering if.
Yeah, they all seem like really great salespeople. I have definitely wanted to poach an employee or two of yours to come work with us or other business ventures. I'm sure
got that PB poach.
Almost got the PV poach. We actually we're thinking about trying to poach Ashlie herself. Can you poach the farmer's daughter? I don't know. It's hard to poach a family member.
Yeah.
I know. It depends on the day.
I feel like I worked at my mom's.
I don't know. I could be poached. The right person could poach me.
Well, I worked at my mom's magazine and I did an interview with a restaurant owner he poached me and I ended up running his restaurant.
That's true. She left me. Left the magazine in the dirt and went to work for that interviewee. That's
so
true.
Stay on your toes, Ashlie, because we're coming for Scott. Just kidding. We like
not cheap. I'm not cheap, so be ready.
Yeah, I know. I'm to figure out what we can do. So Dali has always been a great business. You guys are cruising right along, and then COVID hit. So you had already opened your showroom, which is a standalone building where people can come by, purchase your meats and eggs and things. Prior to the shutdown of markets, did you already have a good base of retail customers there, or was it kind of just there for people who needed to pick stuff up, or how did that kind of change when the markets all shut down and all that stuff started happening?
A lot of change with our satellite distribution warehouse center. That was because I refused to go back to the ranch. And so we had to come up with a solution. This was many years ago. We had to come up with a solution how to, one, store the product safely, but also because the ranch doesn't have enough power to even store all the meats because they're in such rural area. So it's kind of a win-win. They wanted to grow the business. I didn't want to go back up there. So that kind of happened naturally. And then what eventually happened was we had this office space. And we're not really office people. We're still pretty rugged out there. So I had this wasted space out front and I was like, I'm so tired of looking at this ugly carpet. I got to do something with this. And I decided I got a wild hair and I was like, gut this thing. And it was a little over a year before COVID. So I in my free time, I started stripping it apart and ripping out all the cubicles and all the carpet. And I just said, I just don't want this to be this anymore. It's a waste of space. What can I do? So I reach out to the ranch and I say, hey, fam, is it okay if I turn this into a little mini showroom? And they were adamant about it not being a store. They didn't want it to be us selling anyone else's product, which I get. Mm-hmm. We have our own brand, stay in our lane. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
For us. And so I was like, perfect. And then they go, how much is this going to cost us? I said, don't worry, I'll do it all myself. And they're like, do whatever you want then. So sure enough, I gutted, I remodeled. The design was 100% me. Everything you see in there is 100% me. And it was intentioned mostly for curbside pickup before curbside pickup was a thing. And what that means more so was we sell on the hoof side steers and pigs and lambs. And that's a big weight of meats that like a quarter cow fills up 7 cubic feet, which is a traditional deep freezer. So for space reference, that was just way too much to haul to markets. So I wanted to get people who ordered those big items to just come pick it up where it was easier for us and more convenient for them because they don't have to schlep a whole cow through a market. So,
on a wagon or something.
Right. Yeah, seriously though. So for me, it was more so that like appointment only pickup. And then I started getting more and more inquiries like, hey, you're not anywhere on this day of the week. Like there's no, at the time, there was no farmers markets we attended on Fridays. And that was my highest demand because it's right before the weekend. The people who were like leaving town for the weekend, they wanted to get fresh stuff. So I was always being hit up for Friday. And I go, I think this is a sign. I need to just like open the doors as a regular walk-in. You don't have to have an appointment. And so it started with just Fridays. Okay. We had about 9 months of that. And then the pandemic happened. And when that hit, the demand was so high, I was starting to feel a little worried, not just for us, but for customers, that it wasn't safe with the amount of people, foot traffic we had. So that's when I decided, okay, we need to start opening more days. So we extended it, and we're now 5 days a week open there. And it's always busy just about.
Yeah.
So it was an accident. Like that was never the plan to be an actual showroom for coming and buying on the spot. It was supposed to be just for pickup.
But it's so nice that you guys had that available just because when all that stuff was going down.
Well, you were going up there.
I was going up there and then I would ask my neighbors and I'd be like picking stuff up for my neighbors and like getting a whole turkey because like, why not, like, but I was, sitting in my car in a line in my car in the like parking lot to pull up, but they had a great system. Like you could do pre-order and then they just bring it out to the car, pop your trunk, put it in. So you guys really were so organized. And I know that myself and Kat and other people in my family and my neighbors just so grateful for that because meat of all things too were something that was not readily available. We didn't want to go to the grocery store and grocery store meat is gross. So I mean it just was nice that you got that all set up beforehand because that showroom is beautiful. Like that storefront pickup, it's so nice. And I don't know, I'm just really glad that you guys had that all organized. And when that all was happening, so you guys were at like 22 markets. So all of them were shut down at the beginning, right? And then as they started reopening, did you all go back to all the markets or like to the 16, 18 year and out? Are you joining those markets right as they're reopening or were you kind of waiting because your showroom was so busy or you're just getting back in the market?
We're getting back into it. If you can take it, take it. That has always been, if you have an opportunity, go for it, send it. That's what the kids say these days. Send it.
Send it.
Send it. And it was rough. I had to hire someone on the spot to take over the showroom, which she's still there. So we have 7 farmers market employees, but I do have one also that works just the showroom now because that's its own full gig still, even with the markets in full swing mostly.
Do you think that's a different customer, Ashlie, that you're seeing at the showroom? Or is it people that are still not comfortable going back to markets and dealing with the public, or
it's a
different customer entirely?
It's a lot of both. It's a lot of new people that found us online or a friend who referred them and they don't really shop at the farmers markets normally and they don't like the new rules. Like there's all different kinds of stuff. But I think mostly it's for the people who just don't have as flexible of a schedule right now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Or they want to like just pick up their stuff. Like my across the street neighbor, she goes down there all the time now. And I'm like, I can get stuff at the market. And she's like, I'll just go because I like ordering it and going to pick it up. And she feels very like in control of it. She has a little kid. So it's like, she doesn't have to worry about dragging him through the market and stuff. It's just, it's kind of nice to have that
And you don't have to get out of the car still.
Yeah.
So I still offer the curbside. You can text us when you get there. You can prepay for it if you place an advance order, not for walk-in. So you have to have a pre-order. But I think that's a lot of it too. It's like, oh, I got a baby napping in the back seat. I don't want to get out of my car and wake it up. So they just pull up, and then you can open your trunk and it goes right in and there's no contact. So that's really nice.
Yeah. And then were you guys doing deliveries as well before COVID?
No, delivery was our emergency solution to COVID, because when that happened and we found out the markets were closed, the ranch jokingly, but I took it seriously, was like, I hope you enjoy your 3-month vacation. And I was like, what? They're like, they're like, yeah, I hope you guys have 3 months of salary saved and you're going to enjoy your 3 months time off, because you guys never take time off. And which is true. And especially weekends. And so I went into full panic mode. As you guys know, I immediately reached out to you guys to ask for advice and to see what your guys' plan was. And I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I wasn't going to just roll over and be like, all right, I'm hiding out now. Screw all the families who rely on us. This was my chance to build a bridge and fix it. And that's what I thought I was doing. So the delivery was impromptu and it was a major success. So much so that I was nervous that if it kept up at the amount of success that it was, that I was going to be burnt real fast. I mean, the first few weeks we had 23 plus stops, and that's 11 hours in driving around. So it was way more than I expected. Gratefully so grateful for that support. But I was really relieved when the markets reopened, needless to say.
Yeah, I think a lot, and we've talked about this before on our podcast, a lot of the farmers who started doing like pop-ups or deliveries or started CSAs and stuff were like, oh, wow, I never realized how much better it is to just show up at a market and have the customers come to you rather than try to coordinate going to where the customer is.
Remember, we were a little nervous. So we had a variety of farmers, 3 or 4 others that were really proactive, and then a half dozen others, but that were asking us for advice on what do we do to make sure we stay within at least the gray area of permitting, and how do we make sure that this is done correctly, and how would we market this? Can you give us some help marketing it and without ratting us out and that kind of thing. And part of our conversation, was, wow, what if it turns out that this worked really well for them and they don't want to come back to market? So we get markets going again. Yeah. But almost without fail. I think we have one farmer who's decided that he just likes doing the delivery and the box and that kind of thing. But everybody else who came back said, they came right back as soon as we had room for everybody. And it was like, whoa, that was way harder doing it on my own than I thought it was going to be. I love the farmer's market. I like it when everybody comes to my tent. Yeah. So
there's a lot of pros and cons to both.
Sure.
But I think ultimately it's not about your needs as the business. It's about your customers' needs. So for us, going back to the farmers markets, like I said, we could have not, but that wouldn't have been the right thing for our customers who like to just do one-stop shopping. And we know we're not a one-stop shop. We are an essential in your grocery list item, but we are not the only thing in your grocery list item. And so for us, it was more so, we're going to go back to doing a little bit harder. It's harder doing the farmers markets than just doing our showroom, because there's a lot more prep and setup and breakdown and all that. But you do that sacrifice because that customer appreciates it.
Yeah. And you can just like widen your range of people that you're selling to, and really long run with any business, long term, that's a better plan. So,
well, in addition to the farmers getting worn out, I think the customers were getting worn out. You were making a million stuffs a week.
Right? I was going and picking groceries. Stuff up. When I would find those little speakeasy pop-up farmers markets that some people were doing, we won't say who, it was like, thank God, because I can pick up a lot of stuff at once, because I was just driving all over town, and then all my friends knew that I had relationships with farmers and ranchers. Yeah, so then they were like, here's my list. I'm like, oh my God, so exhausting. Now I just go to the market.
I think there was one time where your back seats were down and your entire trunk was packed.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big vehicle.
My huge soccer mom vehicle was just full of boxes of produce and meat and eggs. And it was just, it felt great to do that service during the time when everyone was panicked. It really felt good. Like I felt useful and I felt great, connecting people with farmers that are local. And so a lot of my friends just didn't have relationships with people. And so I know a lot of my friends have been turned on to Dali now, and now they regularly shop at Dali, and it's so great. I'm glad I made those connections, but that was exhausting. So now it's nice to have a little more simplicity.
And we've kind of developed some new farmers market shoppers that way, because people that were picking stuff up on your patio were saying, whoa, that's what a strawberry tastes like?
Oh my God. My friend Corbin's like, I will never eat bacon from anyone else ever again. Like, it's just, and I'm like, yeah, I don't eat any other kind of bacon. Like, so it's just developing that kind of stuff. So that's kind of of a silver lining.
Yeah. Some people shop in a market that didn't used to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you guys still doing deliveries right now, or have you stopped that?
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
No, deliver. So that was been a part of the growth during COVID and navigating how to continue to keep up with demand and continue to offer variety to people who aren't still comfortable going out, even to the showroom for curbside pickup. So we do offer delivery and shipping as well.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's great.
And how do you make that work out financially? Are you charging a delivery charge?
Nope, it's free.
Huh. And how does that make sense? I mean, just from the farmer's standpoint, and making sure that you make a profit and don't just burst into flames from burnout at some point.
Well, cost-wise, it took a lot of analysis to figure out I have pre-packed variety grab bags is what I call them, grab bags. And so there's no variance to them. You don't get to say, I don't want chicken breasts, I want this. Like, it's what it is. That's what you get, because you're not leaving your house to come to the market. So you're going to get what I picked out for you, essentially.
It's like a CSA.
Yes. It's exactly.
So your delivery charge is built into that program, right? Or the cost of delivery, at least.
Yes. Well, when you think about it, we don't upcharge at farmers markets, even though farmers markets take a cut from us. Most of them taking a percentage. Shout out to the Mercados that do not percentage.
Flat rates.
I'm all about the flat rate, but the percentage cost that we would have been using out of market, it actually fully covered the cost of doing the deliveries.
Okay, I get it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. Did you guys have restaurant clients at all?
No, and I pretty much avoid those. I do have a few, just a very, very small mom and pop ones, but we avoid major, like I had Burger Lounge hit us up, turn them down, and a few other, but yeah, we focus more on the consumer direct. That's the whole point of knowing your farmer, is not to have that middleman for us.
Right. Yeah, and so the farmer keeps the retail price. I mean, that's exactly what we always try to explain to people about why it's important to buy at a farmer's market or direct from the farmer, is that then the farmer keeps the retail price.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, when I go to restaurants, it's always really nice to see, local places on the menu, but I always appreciate those farmers that keep their focus on the direct to consumer kind of relationship. I think it makes a difference.
I feel like you kind of have to pick one. You're either a full wholesale, and that's your niche, and then cool, no problem, or you're full to consumer and just know that that's kind of where your money's going to come from.
Yeah, I would think that it would just get so complicated to try to balance the two and think about price points for two different types of customers that you have. So yeah, it's probably better that way.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've pared down some markets, but you're still joining new markets. I just saw you pop up at a new market a couple weeks ago. So you're still adding. Is that because you're going to expand back to more than 16 or 18 markets, or is it because you just try the new markets and then decide which markets to stay at and which markets to go?
Yes. Right now, because there's a few locations that we aren't attending, either they're not controlling the market properly the way we expect them to, or they don't have back in full swing the amount of vendors, and it's just not worth our time and the customer's time. So we are trying new locations to see if we should kind of switch from one to another, but also we are always game to try a new location, because you never know till you try. So that's for sure our go-to, is if we're invited, and we don't scout. So you have to come to us. So if we're invited, it's an honor, and we're always going to give it a shot.
And then how long do you give a new market typically?
6 weeks minimum.
Okay, cool. So that makes sense, because that's kind of what we ask of vendors, is that they commit to at least 6 weeks, because you can't really tell if you're clicking at the market.
And when
until
someone
then,
it's like, what? You don't know.
Right.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah.
So and then what does a market manager have to do to make you stay longer than 6 weeks? What do you look for in a market that would make you to commit to it long term?
I mean, foot traffic or clientele for sure. The right price. If you have a high percentage market and the numbers are really low, it's just not worth it. But definitely do your job. I struggle. Like, our least favorite markets are markets where the managers just aren't doing their job. They aren't managing. It's like, why are we paying you if you're not even here to do the things that's why you have the permits for? So definitely, as long as you guys are on top of it, which shout out once again, you guys are amazing. Then, we're going to want to stick around.
So for you and any other vendor, what are the parts of the market manager's job that are the most helpful to vendors? Since we have a lot of market manager listeners, we're trying to make better market managers for y'all. So
I'll give you a prime example of during COVID. I think Little Italy, NPB, and all the other markets that you guys manage, and I've used this in reference to some of the other markets, Hillcrest, cough, cough. You guys have been really good at engaging with customers before the market starts so that they know what to expect. And this is a perfect example. You tell them all the rules weekly, right? You offer asking questions so customers can, put in their concerns first and before the day even starts, rather than at some markets, there's already a line to get into the market. And the people who aren't wearing their masks find out once they've waited in the 15-minute line, they get to the front of the line. Oh, I'm not wearing a mask. I got to go home. What? They're really upset. Or they brought their dog, or they brought, they're holding hands with their partner in the market, and then they get yelled at, and then they're upset. And then they take their frustration out on the vendors, like it's our fault that we didn't tell them beforehand that they're not allowed to be holding hands or, have their dog there or not wear a mask. And then they take it out on us, and that gets very frustrating. So definitely in that kind of aspect, being on top of it before it becomes a problem is a great way to be a market manager.
So just controlling your market environment and smoothing the way for vendors.
Yeah.
Messaging.
Yeah. Another thing would be like constantly checking on your vendors is really important, because I have some other vendor. Like I said, out of the markets that we do, I pretty much started almost all of them. Out of 22, I'd say at least 16 of them I've started, then passed them on. So I see all the different type of environment. When a market manager just sits in their car the whole day, doesn't ever come out of their car, I've got a few of those.
We can do that.
Is that an option?
No. I'm going to do that.
When a manager doesn't walk around throughout the day saying like, how are things, checking in on your sales, checking in on customers, if you've had any bad experiences. Like more recently, this manager that sits in her car all day, I had a very traumatic experience where a gentleman was being very inappropriate with himself. Ugh. And I had never been more uncomfortable in my life. And of course, I'm trying to get a hold of the manager. I told him to leave. He wouldn't leave my booth. He's being so disgustingly inappropriate. So I'm calling her. She's not answering her phone. I'm like, what is the point of having a manager here if you're not going to force this guy to leave in a time that I'm feeling unsafe and just violated? Yeah. And it was just like the moment where I go, oh my gosh, I am so grateful for when the market managers are walking around. So if I yell your name or I can ask another vendor, can you go find them real quick for me? Then, they're there on the spot when you need them.
Yeah, people know where to find us. I think that's, we have a lot of staff sometimes, and sometimes, I mean, not now because we need all the staff we have, but before COVID, it felt kind of overstaffed sometimes, but it was always good because our vendors have always told us we know where you guys are. We know how to find somebody on your team. We have an information booth, and then we can always call the phone number. It's forwarded to our cell phones and things like that. I think that's a good standard service that should be offered to vendors and farmers at your market, is that they should be able to get a hold of you anytime during the market. Just for experiences like that, hopefully that kind of thing isn't happening at the market.
But there are crises and confrontations, and we deal with urban markets, so we always have a lot of staff that's managing interesting unhomed citizens that sometimes are wandering around and causing things, or
other people stealing or getting into confrontations or hitting on people. We've had some kind of creepy customers before. So just that's what your job is as a market manager. You are the person that steps in. That's just is what it is. So
I have a perfect example of you, Kat. Do you remember this? It's 10 years ago. One of my customers out of my booth was buying something and he takes a step back to leave. And he accidentally stepped on a lady who had a dog on a leash. And the dog bit the guy right in the crotch. And he dropped to the floor crying. And I ran down to the information booth going, Kat, we need your help. And this lady starts taking off with her dog. But what do? You took control of the situation. You offered to help the guy. And you made, the crowd that had drawn around, dissipate. And you handle the situation. I have been in another market where someone got bit by a dog, and that market manager said, "What do you want me to do about it?"
Oh no, it's my house.
Yeah, it is your house.
Here, I'm doing something about it. Right.
Do you remember that?
That's right.
I do. Just one of many exciting experiences at the farmers market. Our job is weird.
Our job is weird.
And getting weirder.
This is why we don't like dogs.
That dog bit the wrong guy in the crotch. He should have found that other guy.
Yeah. Come get the creepy guy.
That's the goal, of course, is to hook up the inappropriate guys with the mean dogs.
Yes. Connect those two.
That's what takes a really skilled market manager.
Yes. I think that's a good example of a cat at the market too. And I think sometimes it's hard to be a market manager because sometimes people think you're a B word, but not that people would ever say that about you, Kat, I'm sure. But it's like you have to be that kind of person that's like, hey, this is my area, this is my house, you're at my market. You asked me if you could be here. Like gotta follow the rules, shoppers and vendors alike. And that's what it is. So you gotta kind of have a firm kind of personality and management style.
Yep. And you got to remember who you're working for. You're working for the market as a whole.
Yeah. You have a lot of different clients. We always say that to we're training so much new staff now. And they're like, well, who do we side with things? And it's like, really, it's not that. It's that, what is the benefit? Like, what is going to help the whole market? We're helping the shoppers. We're helping the farmers and vendors. We're helping the neighborhood. We're helping our own staff. Like, you have to find that balance.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah. It's a collective.
It's a collective. Yes.
Ashlie makes too much money or she'd be a great farmer's market manager.
I'm telling you.
She knows how to multitask and balance priorities. It's a lot.
She must have grown up in a family business. That's just what happens.
That's right. That's what happens.
We got strong mamas.
I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You don't have to like you, but you have to respect you because you are the best farmer's market manager I have ever met.
Aw.
That is so nice. We didn't even text her and tell her to say that on this podcast.
She's told me that before. Yes. I like how she always qualifies it with, people don't have to like you.
People
don't like you, but they respect you.
Respect her.
That's right.
Respect
her. And you know what? I tell people that too. I tell my staff that you have friends. You have plenty of friends. Don't worry about making friends. Worry about doing what's best for the market. So
exactly.
That is what it is.
Makes a good manager.
What do you think is next, Ashlie? We ask all of our that nowadays, and we ask each other frequently, what's your crystal ball say? What's going to happen next in all this chaotic world that we're dealing with?
For the farmers markets, be a little bit more specific for me.
Well, all of us, we're looking at people keep asking us, so when's it going to go back to normal? Like, we know, like none of the world leaders know, but we know.
But you're the best farmers market manager. You should know.
Market manager.
I should know. You know all
right? So we're just always asking people what their hunch is. What's the future of what our whole kind of market thing's going to look like? We obviously hope the world's going to get healthier and that racial justice is going to improve and all those good things. But it's hard for us to address all of that. So just on the market side, what do you see coming in the markets?
I hope things don't go back to full swing normal because normal was never good for us vendors and farmers. Mm-hmm. And a great example is touching stuff. I could have 1,000 signs out that say, please do not touch. And it's like, ooh, touch. and I know all other farmers agree with like avocados, anything perishable, and it's just dirty. Like, why do you have to touch it? And so I hope that that's one big thing. I also hope that it prioritizes like going to actually shop and not going to have a day event. Like, yes, those are great too, but please have the intention of going to support the vendors, not have a free lunch because you sampled everything up and down the block. Yeah.
The worst.
So if you guys remember when we used to grill 10 years ago and sample,
I do remember.
They had a little sign that said, "We are not Costco. Please, one sample per person." Because that is just so entitled for people to think, oh, I love this place. It's better than Costco. I can eat all day. Like, yes, the whole point of samples is that you can connect, you can engage, you can talk to all the ingredients, all the things that you're purchasing before you buy them, because you can't do that at a grocery store. You can't be like, hey, what's this taste like? I mean, maybe they'll know, but not usually. And they took that for granted. And so not having samples is forcing people to just buy it. And if you don't like it, don't go back
don't buy it again.
Yeah.
Same thing again. That's what you do anywhere else. Why are the farmers getting the short end of the stick with that?
Yeah.
And so that's another thing. Samples, touching stuff, and then limiting the amount of people you bring. Hopefully in the future, you don't have to bring your whole family, which is fun sometimes, but I don't know, as far as going in, doing your shopping, moving along, just like keeping the flow of things, I think has been really nice, at least for me.
Yeah, that's what we've been observing too, is that even though we have a limited capacity per block now, we have to meter the amount of people in there. People aren't bringing their whole groups, hopefully.
Yeah.
A lot of feedback from our vendors and farmers have been like, our sales are so great. And it's because like the person shopping is coming. And so that person is there to buy stuff, and they have a list and they are making purchases. And that's the whole point. Yep. Like I try to tell people, would you bring all your friends to the grocery store and walk around and clog up the aisles and get in people's way and try to bring 10 dogs and
take a
grocery
selfie?
Store? Yeah, and take a selfie and try to eat all the oranges. Like, no, you wouldn't. I think it's clarified that farmers markets are grocery stores for a lot of people who didn't even realize it. Well, we're trying to deny it because they thought of it as Costco. So it's been nice. And I think that Dali and the few other farmers and vendors that we have that had not been doing samples before this, because you guys stopped doing samples a long time ago, I think it has, it hasn't really changed the way that you're selling. A lot of our farmers who have been doing a lot of samples this whole time are like, we don't know how to sell without sampling.
Food makers. Yeah.
Definitely food makers. And I understand if you have like a really unique product that people haven't heard of, it's hard. Or if you have something that's, higher end. But I mean, Dali has high end, really great meats and unique things, and they don't sample all those things and people buy it. So I just say there is a way. You just got to retrain your shoppers.
And we've had so many conversations lately with especially food makers who are, so I've got a food maker that said my sales are down by X. He said, it's because I can't sample. I said, well, how much did sampling cost you a day? He said, oh, I never even counted that up. I was, first of all, just shocked and appalled that he'd never counted that up. And then he actually came back 3 days later and said, you know what, I counted it up. I'm definitely ahead. He said, I'm not selling as much, but I was spending a lot. He said, I was spending $300 or $400 a day on samples, cost of goods. I was like, okay, see, let's add up the whole system here. And so you just, we need to get Maya back and explain to people you're supposed to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, just a different way of selling, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think samplings are important, especially if you're a startup. Like that was what made us when we first started farmers markets, because people didn't know the difference between grass-fed, right? For example. Yeah. But at a certain point, when you have enough base, those people recommend other people, and word of mouth is the strongest, form of advertisement. So sampling just became mundane and unnecessary at that point for us.
Yeah, because you guys have such a great reputation. So yeah, it is hard. But I tell the vendors, the mask thing, I think, is going to be the last thing to go. And so sampling, we really have to get creative about how you can sell your product without having people having to put something in their mouth. Because I think that wearing masks at farmers markets is going to stick around for a little while. So we have to just...
I think wearing masks in the world may stick around for a really long time. I know people don't want to hear this, but I think it might.
Let's just be sanitary, shall we? Let's be safe.
Should we be safe?
That's a good point, though, Bridget, about what you said. It is, at the end of the day, a product can sell itself, but if you can't sample a product, then you better be a good salesperson.
Exactly.
I think it can become a crutch for a lot of people, for a lot of like sales, of kind of just forcing samples onto people. And, some vendors aren't really engaging with their customers. The reason their customers are there is just because there's a trough of like sauces that they're just like gobbling up. So it's kind of recalibrating what the salesperson has to do to get people to come to their booth or, purchase their product. So it will be interesting to see how that shifts a bit.
Use your words.
Yeah. I mean, just as being a market manager, when I go to other farmers markets, when I used to travel,
When we all used to travel.
I would always feel really bad sampling because I knew that it was like, I just felt really self-conscious sampling because I'm like, I'm not here just to sample. And so people would offer samples, but if they could talk to me about their product and be like, these are the ingredients we use, these are the flavors, I'd be like, I'll just buy it. And some people would be like, here, do you want to sample it first? I'm like, no, it sounds good. Like, I'll just buy it. Like, there are people out there, like you go to you go to the grocery store, you can't try everything. You buy stuff without sampling at the grocery store. You can buy stuff without sampling at the farmer's market. Like, you just have to be a good salesperson. Like, I'd buy stuff from Dali's employees. Dave selling his hot sauce could sell it to anybody on the street without having to, he did sample, but I feel like just the way you talk about your product, like you can sell it without sampling it. So just finding those new avenues, I think is what is going to come out of this.
Silver linings, new skill sets.
That's right. Yep. That's what we're all about. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ashlie. And we'll talk to you soon about more stuff and keep us posted on everything. And then we'll link to like your Instagram and stuff for our listeners and our followers too, because I think you guys do a great job and you show all the things a farm can do with social media. So you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
I had a good time.
All right.
Thank
Bye. Bye. To hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Feel free to come over, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join that group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit meets pandemic. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks for listening.